Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Callan Lorraine Road in Gulfport, south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday morning. It's a live call-in show. And what we do is talk about things dealing with your health. Sometimes we have particular topics, as of today. And then like next Monday, we will be, since it's the first Monday of the month, we'll be doing what we call Open Line Monday. So we'll be fielding any questions about anything regarding your health. And our phone numbers are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. June is Men's Health Month. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk today about men's health, things that we have to deal with on a daily basis.
I mean, anything could be men's health, but there are some specifics that, of course, we know men deal with that women don't. And we all know prostate health is one of them. ED is another one. Those are very specific to men. Also, but they do deal with some of the common problems that everybody has: depression, heart disease. Heart disease has always been a big thing in men as well. So it is one of those things that you definitely want to pay attention to. And I mean, prostate is something that we definitely, any men over 50, and it can be before then.
Yeah, you sure can.
But almost all men, I would say over 50, start having an issue. And so at that point, we tell people to start checking a PSA. At least then, we do it a lot earlier in some men, because when we actually check testosterone, which a lot of men want their testosterone checked. And that's another thing, low testosterone. That has become an epidemic.
It is.
So we really are seeing a lot of low testosterone. And we'll talk about that. That's one of the things we should talk about the most, because of the things that can cause it.
Right.
But we see that young, and when we check the testosterone, we always check the PSA, because if somebody's going to do something to boost testosterone, you got to make sure it does not affect their prostate, and that can.
Mm-hmm. It is, and we suggest, highly suggest, rather than just your common PSA test, there's a test that does the PSA, but it's called the free. And what it does is gets the free component of the PSA and the bound component both. So it gives you both. And it gives you a better idea, is there anything really lurking around in there that you need to be concerned about? Because just looking at a raw number sometimes doesn't tell you everything.
Right.
So you need to look at that. We do the free PSA, and it's not.
It's a little extra, but not a lot.
$10 or something like that.
It's a little extra, but not a lot.
But it can make the difference between life and death.
Well, yeah.
It can at least point. Right. It can at least point you out to the fact that, hey, something else is going on here. We need to really be careful here.
Because one of the things that you see on a free PSA is the likelihood of its cancer if it's elevated.
It's very predictive, in other words.
Yeah, so if your PSA is elevated, it gives you the percentage of what likelihood it is to be cancer. And of course, if you have a higher likelihood, you better go get it checked.
Right.
We usually send people to get it checked anyway when they have a high PSA.
Right.
But that is something that definitely men have to deal with.
Yeah.
I always say it's a good thing men finally have to deal with something.
Wow, Janine.
All right.
Well, women deal with issues from the time they're like teenagers. And men do have to start, because all the men start complaining when they come in, well, I don't like this getting up in the middle of the night. I'm like, well, that's something that men deal with. And, and there's definitely supplements to actually help with that getting up in the middle of the night. Now that, you don't have to have an elevated PSA to have prostate enlargement. Actually, prostate enlargement is very, very, very common. I don't even know the percentage, but it's going to be really high as men get older. And that is when you start getting up all night long, and you got to get up often. It's just the prostate itself is probably swollen.
Right.
And we have a few different products for that. We have our, what we call our prostate support, and then we have Prostate Max. So we have two different products that are specifically for prostate, and then we have everything in those products separately. And then we have DIM and Crocera, and there's so many things that we have at our store for prostate health. So prostate's one of those things that there's a lot that natural that you can do for it.
Yeah, it really is.
It is.
Yeah, and you brought up kind of touched on something there that I think is really important for men, and that's depression. A lot of times guys just don't want to admit it.
I agree.
It's like,
I agree.
We don't want to talk about that.
So many different things in life that we go through. That I'll admit, I've been through it recently myself.
Yeah. I think it's one of those common things, and like I say, guys are, they're just a little too stoic, to want to admit it, But hey, it's something you have to deal with, and there's things that you can take for it. You know, like we use the 5-HTP a lot.
Oh, I take that every day, twice a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and SAMe and some other things. You know, it's really good, and it really makes life more enjoyable. I promise you. You know,
yeah,
so,
more men will actually say that, or the people around them will say they're angry,
right,
rather than depressed, because men will deny being depressed, most of them. But if you have that anger and everybody makes you mad and everybody ticks you off, you know what I mean, then you might look at something that does help that. And we do, you know, a lot of the men will say, they don't say they have depression, like, so they say, I want those pills that keep me from wanting to kill everybody. You know what I mean? Okay. So
I mean, seriously, that's what they'll say.
It's more about the anger, it is. And we even have GABA, which is a very good calmative.
Yeah.
So we use that a lot in men. I find that GABA makes women tired during the day, but it don't men. It's kind of weird how you'll see differences in men and women on certain supplements.
Hormones
yeah, there's differences. So the GABA is really good at calming.
Yes.
And 5-HTP is really good at definitely depression, increasing serotonin, keeping down sugar cravings, because men have issues with weight just like women. Now they don't have near as hard of a time. When men decide to lose weight, they usually lose it much easier than women. But that is due to testosterone. Now, if somebody says, I've tried everything and I can't lose weight, and they're a man, you definitely got to start looking at testosterone. And testosterone is a huge issue. It really, really is.
It is, more so than you realize, you know, and it's something that's really kind of a modern, if you will, in the past 50 years, modern kind of a problem that we have. Like I say, it's grown into epidemic proportions. And because 50 years ago or more, it was rare. I mean, they've got statistics on those guys back then. Our testosterone has gradually been going down over the past 50 years. And it's really getting low now.
One of the big reasons we see is sugar handling problems and pre-diabetes, diabetes. As sugar rises, as insulin, I should say, as insulin rises, because insulin resistance, there's no doubt testosterone goes down.
Right.
And as people gain more weight and have more weight in the middle, testosterone goes down. The highest testosterone we see are the skinny older men. I mean, seriously, the men 70s, 80s, skinny as a rail, they got high testosterone. And so you start looking, and now we see 20-year-olds that don't. We see 20-year-olds that actually have problems, and we used to never even think to check a 20-year-old. Even 20 years ago when we started doing, 20-something years ago when we started doing this.
You wouldn't even think about it.
Now, we see it every day.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah.
All right, our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. It's Men's Health Month, and that's what we're talking about. So if you have a question, give us a call. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Oh, and welcome back. It's 9 minutes after 9 o'clock, and WLOX's Good Morning to you. We've got, of course, our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show, and we're talking about men's health. Our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713.
Yeah, you know, something else with men's health, and I think this is something, and the reason is men tend to have a little bit more problems with heart attacks and so on than the women. Now, women, if a female has a heart attack, it's usually worse, but men tend to have more of them, okay? So from that standpoint, you know, cardiovascular disease is something that really guys really should pay attention to. And you need to start early. You know, you don't wait till you're 55.
That was going to be my next question. I mean, at what point in our men's life should we really start taking, paying attention to some of these things?
Probably at about 30. 25, 30.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, is that, you know.
Should it be earlier if there is a history of it in your
family?
Oh,
definitely, yeah. But, you know, and we see this all the time, you know, somebody has a pretty bad history in their family, you know, various people in the family had cardiovascular disease and so on. And yet they're sitting there at 50, 55 saying, what can I do? Well, you should have started doing something at probably 25. But, you know, now that we're there, okay, we got to deal with it.
Actually, not even 25. We're seeing more
we're seeing a lot,
kids pre-diabetic, and a lot of times it is boys.
Right.
The boys are the ones we're seeing with more insulin resistance. We're seeing them gain weight and be heavy at a younger age. I mean, although it's both sexes at that point, but there is no doubt we're seeing things younger and younger. I mean, the way people eat need to change as a kid, actually.
Right, and that's true, you know, because to develop something like cardiovascular disease, for it to fully develop, it may take 20, 30 years or more. But it's going to happen. You know, if you have the like she said, we get these kids in and they're 12 to 15 years old and they're already pre-diabetic, for God's sakes. I mean, it's not going to take them 30 years or so to do it. That's why we're seeing younger and younger people, men especially, having cardiovascular disease, having heart attacks. And it's nothing. You pick up the paper, watch the news. You're seeing, this big athlete, and he's 28 years old and died of a heart attack.
Well, who was it? Who was it? The NFL player? Was it last year?
Somebody there's
just
been
recently. There's somebody just last week.
I didn't know about the one last week.
I think in their 30s. It was a past NFL player that was in their 30s. But
this one it was on the field. I think he played for Buffalo.
Yeah.
Right. They think that could have been due to a hit. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? That's one that they're not really sure about yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Got a phone-in question. Does nutrition play a part with height?
Yeah.
With height.
With height shrinking.
Shrinking.
Oh,
height shrinking. Does nutrition play a part with height shrinking?
Bone density does play a part in height shrinking. And bone density is a problem with both men and women. Now, of course, it's always been thought of as women, but we are seeing definitely more men with bone loss as well. Because, again, testosterone is going down in men, and the longer they are without testosterone, the more they're going to actually.
The older that we get, we get shorter.
Well, also the disc height
happens.
in the back. I mean, the more injuries you have over the years, the more trauma you've had to your spine, those discs definitely deteriorate. And so you do see a lot of that. Also, so there's no doubt as the discs deteriorate, you do shrink some.
But back to the bone health thing there, we see an awful lot of men, and a lot of men just never get the test done. They never have that DEXA scan done to see about their bone health. But really and truly they should. It's a good idea to do it.
What's it called?
DEXA scan.
DEXA scan.
Dual energy X-ray. Yeah. And what it does is it gives you an idea of, okay, what do I really need to be doing? Because if you can catch something early enough, then yes, nutrition is going to play a big part in helping you turn that around. And if you don't know, and everybody says, well, I don't remember whether I want to know or not. Yeah, you do. I mean, because you don't want to get to that point where all of a sudden something drastic happens. You break a bone, step off a curb and break a bone or something like that, or fall, just a small fall, and you fracture a hip where it shouldn't. So it's really important to keep up with that bone health for men. Now, women, we get them all the time. Their primary care doctors are pretty good about, they reach about 55. Now, they should be doing it at 30. Okay, but insurance don't want to pay for it. So, but you can actually tell your doctor if you're 30, I want it done. I want to get you a baseline, see where I am at 30 years old or 25 or 30. And then as time goes on, you can kind of monitor and watch that thing, because it is something you want to pay attention to, because you're not going to turn it around overnight. If you've got a bone density issue, I guarantee you, it is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of work.
One of the things you can do as female or male for bone density is weight-bearing exercise.
Right.
And you do see more men doing that than probably women, but you are seeing more women do it nowadays.
Yeah.
So weight-bearing exercise is one of the really good things you can do. Make sure you get your nutrients. Make sure your vitamin D is adequate, which many people we check are not, because that's something that's on every panel, and so we do it in everybody. And we see a lot of people that don't have enough. We see people that are low in calcium, because so that's another thing that you got to make sure it's right.
And the most important part is K2.
K2.
I promise you. Nobody out there gets enough K2.
Right.
It's just.
That's where you have the ADK2.
Right.
Right. Well, and we have K2 by itself.
K2 by itself as well, but it actually helps with decreasing the plaque in the arteries, helping the bone density. Really important for all those things.
And back to our testosterone issue.
Yeah.
It actually is involved in that production of that testosterone as well. So K2 is extraordinarily important. And the problem we get into, our food supply actually sucks. It really does. And our FDA, they suck worse than ever.
They allow
it to happen.
They allow the chemicals to be in the food supply.
If there's anybody that should be hung, it'd be the people in the FDA, because they're allowing our food supply to go to hell in a bucket. Just period. I mean, that's all you can say about it.
Well, I mean, you said you hear recently about all these chemicals and stuff that you're finding in the food that you don't even know what they are.
And there's countries that won't even take food that's in the United States because of some of the chemicals that are still allowed in the U.S.
Right.
So that's a totally different show.
That's
We're talking about men's health today.
Well, it affects men's health.
Well, it does.
Well,
it
yeah,
affects
it does.
everybody's health. But like I said, men's health. One of the problems with men is they ignore a lot of the problems until it gets extreme.
Yeah.
And that is one of the problems with men. And we see it a lot. Women tend to start looking earlier and start trying to do things earlier to where most men, not all, kind of put it off and rather not know about it.
Yeah.
It's a macho thing.
It is.
Yeah, it's a macho. Yep.
It's 17 minutes after 9 o'clock, talking about men's health this morning. Our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're going to take our final break and come back with this week's special and our last segment. And welcome back. It's our final segment here, the Doctor's Nutrition Show, and we are going to pass along to you our deal of the week.
Deal of the week.
Deal of the month.
It's a different thing.
That's just something else on Tuesdays. Our special of the week from Doctor's Nutrition, which is?
Well, the andro build, and that's something to help increase testosterone. Now, it's not a testosterone direct. And what it is herbs and stuff that can help you build or make more testosterone and keep it from turning into estrogen, which is a problem if you try to do that. And the other thing is our DN prostate support. Just supports that prostate, gives you the things like your salt palmetto, gives you the zinc, you give pumpkin seed, all those things, lycopene, nettles, keep down the inflammation and so on. So it's something that's just good. It's really good to just take it as even if you don't have a prostate problem, it's because we don't want one. And that's the reason to take that. Great stuff to take, and both those are on sale this week. So
now, would you recommend the andro build to bodybuilders?
We got it.
Something they can take.
It's something we got some that do it. Yeah.
I actually say, you don't want to boost your testosterone unless you need to, so it doesn't matter what you do.
Gotcha.
So the big thing is to do lab work. Like we always say, check your lab work, see where you are. We do have our super panel for men is actually a really good panel that checks cardiovascular, it checks the prostate, it checks the testosterone, it checks your estrogen. So it actually even looks to see if you're making too much estrogen or turning your testosterone into estrogen. It also looks at utilization of testosterone. We see a lot of men that have enough testosterone, but they don't utilize it properly. So it's still not really available for the body to use. So there's different things that help that. So there's big thing is to check things, see where you are. And now we have tons of men that come do lab work. We really do. Men do kind of put it off though. They put it off a little bit farther, so don't put it off anymore. Come get your lab work done and see where the problems are. All
right, got another caller with a question. What are some ways to decrease inflammation with chronic diseases?
One thing that's good for almost every chronic disease is SPM.
I was going to say that's the first thing off my lips.
Yep.
We've only been using it for past 3 or 4 or 5 years, something like that. But the numbers as far as reduction of inflammation and inflammatory markers that we've seen is just astounding.
It is, and that's things you can measure in lab work is the inflammation, and actually it lowers it better than anything we've ever used. Now there's tons of stuff out there. There's the curcumins, you have boswellia, you have the systemic enzymes, you have, we have bromelain, we have tons of natural anti-inflammatories, the serapeptidase. So like I said, there's a lot of natural ones, but the SPM, amazing at how it works. It really does do better than anything that we've ever used. And really it's something that you're not going to just go find at a big box store, actually. It's very specialized, and it actually stands for special pro-resolving mediators. So it's actually something that the body makes itself, but as you age or get compromised, it doesn't make it.
Or if you don't have
enough omega-3s, which no one does.
Which is the base fat that it takes to make these SPMs.
Right.
And like I say, there's a lot of things that can cause your body not to produce them correctly. Things that interfere with liver function, like fatty liver, which is one of the problems that we see. It's one of the fastest growing chronic conditions in America today is the fatty liver. And it does cause congestion in that liver, and when the liver gets congested, nothing works.
Again, and it goes back to sugar handling.
Right.
Like I said, a lot of things go back to sugar handling. A lot of men's issues go back to sugar handling because it causes of diabetes. Diabetes increases heart disease. There's no doubt low testosterone comes from not handling sugar properly. Now, so you really you got to clean up that diet some. You got to change the diet, stop the sugar, and
avoid as many of these pollutants as we can. Atrazine being number one. They've shown that atrazine, and we're one of the few countries that still use this stupid stuff. But it is used, and it's a pesticide that's used, and they've got animal studies that just boggle your mind when you look it up. It's atrazine. But and it's in a lot of the food supply. So we have to try to eat as clean as we possibly can. That's a biggie, and then to handle sugar correctly.
Yeah, getting fresh vegetables like from the farmers market and all those is
yeah, you got to watch the farmers market.
They still use pesticides.
Right, but I'm saying, you got to wash them. You need to wash them.
Well, you can't wash atrazine off of it. So that's
Really?
no. That's one of the fallacies. Okay, you can wash it. Yeah, I can't do that. So it becomes systemic to the plant. So there's a lot of things that we can do, but trying to eat as clean as you possibly can. That's why eating organic is probably your best bet. Or trying. I know around here it's really tough to get a lot of the good organic stuff. But we got to try, and meat is one of the number one issues. And
I've got to say this, not this past weekend, but last weekend for Father's Day, went over to their house for a cookout, and you did organic hamburgers.
Yeah, we had organic hamburgers and organic hot dogs.
I didn't have one of those, but I had the hamburgers, and man, they were so good. I went out and bought some of that meat.
Did you? Okay, good. See?
I haven't used it yet, but it's very, very good. People say, organic, it's going to be bland. No, it was really
Well, organic doesn't make it taste different. It's just what's lacking in it. I mean, it doesn't have the chemicals. So you want as much organic as you can.
The reason you buy organic food is not because of what organic food has in it. It's because of what it does not have in it.
Right.
Yes.
Get that through your head. It's the stuff that it's not there. That's what you're paying for. Let somebody else eat atrazine. Let's send it to some foreign country or something. They won't take it, by the way.
Chemical warfare.
They will not take it. Yeah, it's chemical warfare. It truly is. I mean, that's the way some of these countries look at it. So yeah, and so to protect yourself, guys, women too, both. We really need to be paying attention to what you're eating. That's why the organic food is so important.
And grow your own stuff if you can.
Grow your own, yeah.
I mean, even in pots, you can do it on a patio. You don't have to have a giant spread.
Well, I've got a big deck now on the back of my house.
So that's put pots, grow fruit.
Getting some of those planters and growing some tomatoes and stuff like that out there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we eat mostly organic. If we eat out occasionally, which we do, you can't get organic around here. But but otherwise, we pretty much do. Even when we have a cookout, even when we will use organic.
Yep. Like I said, it is delicious. Those are the best hamburgers I've had.
Yeah,
it's really good.
They are. Yeah, they really are. Really good. So I mean, you can look in. I think the packet is green.
Yeah.
That was the hamburger meat was packed in.
Oh yeah, the plastic was.
The plastic.
I wish they'd pack it in something besides plastic, but that's another story.
That's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Men's Health Awareness Month, guys, get out there, and ladies, hey, urge your man to get out there and do some things and take care of himself. Eat better. Any kind of early signs he might have, be sure you get them checked.
Do your lab work.
Blood, as I was just going to say.
Do your lab work.
Get that blood work.
Yep.
That's the most important thing in the world.
Best investment you'll ever make.
Yeah.
It really is. It really, really is. Because I tell you what, it's made a big difference in my life. When I first started over 9 years ago, working with the doctors there and getting my blood work done, and they got me on proper supplements, I have felt the best that I have felt, and I'll be 67 years old in September. And everybody says, you don't look it. And I said, well, I don't feel it either.
Cool.
Well, good.
That's the great thing about it.
That's
one of the most important parts, is the don't feel it part.
Thanks to y'all. Next week is the first Monday of the month, so we'll be talking, whatever you want to talk about regarding your health. It'll be Open Line Monday. So I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. We got a heat index going up really big today, so be careful.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.